Today's journey takes us back to ancient Rome as we uncover the chilling methods of execution that defined their justice system. In ancient Rome, the law was enforced with a severity that mirrored the society's emphasis on order and discipline. Let's delve into the most notorious execution methods of that era. First is crucifixion, a symbol of terror and control. Victims endured excruciating pain and humiliation, displayed publicly for days. This method was used to suppress dissent and punish slaves, pirates, revolutionaries, and enemies of the state, as well as robbers and murderers in some cases, casting a shadow of fear across the society. Considered a more dignified and swift method of execution, decapitation was often reserved for Roman citizens, who were spared from more brutal and shameful deaths like crucifixion. High-profile leaders and political figures, when condemned, were typically executed in this manner. The execution would be carried out with a single strike if possible, to minimize suffering. This form of execution was often part of public spectacles in arenas like the Colosseum. The condemned, often slaves, criminals, or Christians during certain periods, were left defenseless before wild animals. This method served both as a form of entertainment for the masses and as a stark warning against defying Roman law or societal norms. Burning alive was a punishment that reflected the Roman desire for spectacle and deterrence, usually reserved for specific crimes such as arson. Burning at the stake was a form of capital punishment that involved intense physical suffering. The execution would be public, serving as a deterrent. In some cases, it was also used for the execution of witches and heretics. While not as common in Rome as in some other ancient cultures, stoning was a method of execution for particular offences, often involving community participation. It was a brutal method where death could be slow and agonizing as the crowd threw stones at the condemned. Stoning was used for certain religious or moral offences like adultery or blasphemy, involving community participation and resulting in a slow, agonizing death. Known as exposure or abandonment, this method involved leaving a person in a deserted place without food or water, often bound or incapacitated. It was a slow and agonizing death. Infants and the elderly were sometimes subjected to this form of abandonment. It was reserved for those deemed unworthy of life or a proper death. It was a cruel reflection of societal indifference towards the vulnerable. This method of execution was specifically used for traitors or those who committed perjury. The Tarpeian Rock was a steep cliff on the southern side of the Capitoline Hill. The fall from the rock would usually result in death from the impact. Strangling in prison was reserved for those whose status or crimes required a more discreet form of execution. It was a silent end, away from the public's prying eyes, for those entangled in political intrigue. Reserved for military discipline, this method involved beating a soldier to death, typically for desertion or dereliction of duty. The execution would often be carried out by the condemned's own comrades, serving as a grim warning to other soldiers against committing similar offences. These execution methods were not just about punishing the guilty, they were about showcasing power, reinforcing social norms, and maintaining the rigid order of Roman society. Thanks for joining us on this historical exploration. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more insights into the past. This is Mystery Milestones, signing off until next time.